Before we get started, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications whenever we share a video.
Apple today announced that its 31st Worldwide Developers Conference will be a digital-only event, with no physical gathering due to the ongoing spread of the coronavirus around the world. The online-only event will take place in June, and Apple says the new online event will be packed with content for consumers, press, and developers alike. Millions of creative and innovative developers will be provided with early access with new software and will be able to engage with Apple engineers. And while we are unsure whether or not new hardware will be announced during this event, we can still expect to see a keynote about the upcoming versions of iOS, macOS, etc. Speaking of new versions of iOS, iOS 14 leaks have started to roll in this week with some potential closer looks of what new features lie ahead for iOS users. For starters, Apple is potentially looking at a new way to scroll through all of your installed apps, and Apple plans to introduce a new screen that would allow users to view all of their installed apps in a list view, which could be similar to the list view that we've seen on the Apple Watch. The list will presumably be in alphabetical order by default, with the report claiming that users will be able to set filters such as recently used apps or apps with unread notifications. I'm curious to see if this will allow users to customize their home screens a bit by being able to remove some or all apps from your home screen entirely and just kind of rely on using that list view as your main way to access all of your applications. Apple could also support third-party wallpaper packs directly inside of the settings application in iOS 14, with Apple planning to introduce several new wallpaper categories to kind of help you sort through them. It's already possible to set any image as a wallpaper on your phone, but this feature would allow users to scroll through all of the wallpapers that you have installed, whether it's through a third-party application or not, and just be able to do it all within the settings app, which is pretty cool. iOS 14 is also expected to include new HomeKit features like face classification in HomeKit camera video streams, and there's also the potential for some new accessibility features that could possibly provide haptic feedback for important sounds like fire alarms or doorbells. Now, one of the major new updates could come to the Messages app. For starters, there's a new Slack-like mention system that would allow users to tag other contacts with their name by just typing the @ sign and then, your name. So it could be @Joe or @Jane or @Dan, whatever. When you type the @ sign, a list of suggested contacts would appear. This would be particularly useful in busy group chat conversations, as it would be possible to enable hide alerts setting and then only receive notifications when you have been directly mentioned in that conversation. Apple is also testing the ability to retract iMessages after sending them. It looks like there will be fine print visible to both the sender and recipients that would indicate a message has been sent and then retracted, so you're not going to completely get away with saying something and then removing it quickly before they may even see it, but at least, they'll know that something was retracted. It is unclear if there will be a time limit on retracting messages or not. Other potential features could include the ability to see when a group member is typing, which we already have when we're having a one-on-one conversation and Messages, and the ability to mark the last message in a conversation as unread after you've already read it, and more. iOS 14 may also include a new pencil kit feature that will allow you to handwrite text in any text input field using the Apple Pencil, with the handwritten content then converted into standard text. This could work with any text input field in apps like Messages, Notes, Reminders, Calendar, you name it. Anything with the text input field, that's pretty much what it's going to work with. Finally, Apple is working on a new AR application that could feature integrations with Apple stores and Starbucks, which suggests users could do something like hold up an iPhone in an Apple store to view information about products. AR experiences would be triggered via QR code tags in the area, and there's a possibility that iBeacons or Apple's upcoming AirTags could work as triggers. Now, to emphasize, there is no guarantee that Apple plans to make all or any of these features available inside of iOS 14. This is just the information that we have, but testing has taken place in recent months, and so it's definitely worth bringing it all up. Aside from iOS 14, Apple also seems to be working on new MacBook Pro and Air models with new scissor keyboards that could launch in the second quarter of 2020, according to our favorite Apple analyst, Ming-Chi Kuo. Kuo did not comment on the size of the new MacBook Pro, but he is possibly referring to that 14-inch model that was previously mentioned, given that the 16-inch MacBook Pro was only released like a few months ago. The new 14-inch model would likely replace the 13-inch MacBook Pro, which would be discontinued, and Ko expects the new MacBook Pro and MacBook Air models to have various cost optimizations, but said that users will most likely not notice any real difference at all. In addition to these new keyboard updated models, Ko believes that Apple has bigger ambitions for its notebook lineup. Ko said Apple has plans to launch MacBook models with its own custom processors in fourth quarter of 2020 or the first quarter of 2021. Ko did not indicate whether these will be MacBook Pro or MacBook Air models or both, nor did he share any further details at all, really. Ko also believes that Apple will introduce MacBook models with an all-new design in the second or third quarter of 2021, but again, he did not indicate whether these will be Pro or Air models. There hasn't really been a significant redesign of the MacBook Pro since 2016 and the MacBook Air since 2018. New software and hardware is always exciting, but of course, we would love to know your thoughts on all of this. What new features in iOS 14, macOS, tvOS, all of the software, and what hardware do you want to see for 2020? Go ahead and let us know in the comment section down below. This has been Dan with MacRumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.